Sometimes after divorce, you can sit in a completely quiet house and then you realize nobody actually needs you today. And honestly, that thought can mess with you more than people understand. Because people talk about the divorce, they talk about the breakup, they talk about the freedom, the paperwork, and the logistics, but nobody really talks about the strange emotional loneliness that can happen afterwards. Not just being alone physically, I mean the kind of loneliness that makes you feel emotionally untethered from the life you used to belong to. You can know the divorce was necessary and still feel completely disoriented by how lonely your life suddenly feels. And if this loneliness has been making you question yourself lately, there's a reason for that. One of the hardest things for me after my marriage ended was realizing how much of my identity had been built around being needed. I was a wife for 36 years. I was raising children. My life was loud, busy, and chaotic, full of routines and responsibilities and people constantly needing something from me. And then suddenly, it got quiet. Not the peaceful quiet, the kind of quiet where you walk into the house and there's nobody there, nobody waiting for you to come home. I remember standing in my kitchen some nights just eating fast food or whatever I could get my hands on at the counter because cooking an actual meal just for myself, it felt depressing. And I think this is part of why divorce loneliness feels so much heavier than people expect. Because sometimes you're not just grieving a person, you're grieving the emotional structure of your life. For years, maybe decades, your brain got used to somebody being there, even if the marriage wasn't healthy, even if you already felt lonely inside the relationship. Part of you still expected your old life when you woke up every morning. And then suddenly all of that disappears. And the little things hit in ways you don't expect. Watching something funny and then realizing there's nobody there to share it with. Reaching for your phone before remembering your life changed. Pulling into the driveway and feeling that heaviness hit before you even open the car door. Hearing your own footsteps in a quiet house. And I think a lot of divorced women secretly wonder if they've become emotionally irrelevant. Not because they're weak, but because for so many years they were needed constantly. And then suddenly they're not. And that shift can feel brutal emotionally. The second thing nobody really talks about is how divorce loneliness slowly turns into identity loneliness. And those things, they're not the same. Sometimes the pain isn't, I miss my marriage. Sometimes the pain is, I don't even know who I am anymore. Because when you spend years being somebody's partner, somebody's support system, somebody's mother, somebody's everything, your identity wraps itself around those roles. And then divorce strips a lot of that away all at once. And now you're sitting there trying to figure out, what do I even enjoy anymore? What do I want? Who am I when nobody needs me the same way anymore? That kind of loneliness is deeper than people realize because it's not just about missing someone else. It's about missing yourself. And honestly, sometimes I didn't even know if I missed the marriage or if I just missed feeling important to somebody. I think that's why some women stay constantly busy after divorce. Not because they are healed, but because stillness feels emotionally terrifying. Stillness forces you to sit face to face with how unfamiliar your life suddenly looks. Loneliness after divorce can start making you believe painful things about yourself that are not actually true. Maybe I'm unwanted now. Maybe I'm too old. Maybe everyone else moved on except me. Maybe this is just my life now. Loneliness distorts perspective, especially when your identity, routines, future, and emotional security all changed at the same time. Your whole life changed faster than your identity could adjust to it. That's not weakness. That's grief. That's emotional shock. That's rebuilding. And I think one of the biggest turning points for me was realizing I wasn't failing at healing. I was adjusting to becoming somebody new while still grieving who I used to be. There's a difference. And slowly, very slowly, the silence stopped feeling so threatening. Not because the losses didn't matter, not because I stopped loving the people I built my life around, but because little by little I started reconnecting with myself under all the roles I had carried for so many years. So if you've been feeling deeply lonely after divorce lately, I really want you to hear this. This isn't weakness. This is what happens when an entire life structure disappears. Of course it feels strange. Of course some nights feel heavy. And of course part of you still feels emotionally untethered. A major part of your life changed. And sometimes healing starts with simply realizing that what you're feeling actually makes sense. If this resonated with you, next, watch my video, I Didn't Know Who I Was After Divorce. Because for a lot of women, the loneliness and the identity loss are deeply connected. Pick the playlist that fits your season. You'll see them on the screen now. And subscribe so you don't miss the next video. I'll see you soon.